Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley reporting here from Washington, D.C., and we have a very full program today. I want to talk to you about the historic Milan verdict against CIA kidnapping criminal activity. CIA renditions are now officially condemned as kidnapping, and 23 CIA agents have been convicted and sentenced to 5 years, most of them, and 8 years for the kingpin and ringleader, the infamous Robert Seldon Lady, CIA station chief in Milan. And I want to direct your attention to the Russia Today YouTube website. You will find two programs involving me, two interviews with me, one on the return of the mystery plane, one of the CIA's private fleet of aircraft used for these criminal kidnap renditions across Europe, has shown up at Birmingham Airport in Britain. This is an infamous plane on the watch list of human rights activists in Europe. So that is back. You can see that again. Russia Today, two interviews. I want to call everybody's attention once again to the fall of the Republic. I'll try to talk about that a little bit more detail today. Excellent coverage on the world economic crisis, the need to nationalize the Federal Reserve, prominently displayed, and that's nationalize and not something else. And indeed, the bankruptcy of the Malthusian insanity of cap and trade. But let's get to the economic situation. As usual, the most critical item. We have the new unemployment statistics this morning, and that involves the highest unemployment rate officially in 26 years. You've got to go back to the Reagan-Volcker era to get a worse unemployment figure. 10.2% jobless across the United States. 10.2%. So we've now crossed this magic line of 10%. Almost 200,000 jobs lost, and the Obama apologists are saying, well, 200,000 jobs lost is not as bad as 300,000 or 500,000 lost. It's still a disaster, and the depression continues. Teenage unemployment at 29%. If you're a young person without much education looking for a job, you are nowhere in Obama's America. But now if you dig a little bit into these figures, you will find that although the official unemployment is 10.2%, even the Labor Department figures themselves, once we add in the underemployment figure, to go no further than that, we reach an eye-popping 17.5%. 17.5%, 17.5% unemployment and underemployment, and that is the worst it has ever been since the Labor Department, Bureau of Labor Statistics, began focusing on underemployment, people who are working part-time, short-time, who would like to work full-time. This is the worst, and that goes back to 1964. The year 1964 has no particular crisis attached to it, as 83 did in terms of unemployment, but that's just when they started with this data series. That's when they started compiling statistics according to this. Now, one good thing has happened, right? A concrete measure to help the workforce is that the Congress has now approved an extension of unemployment benefits. They've added at least 14 weeks more of unemployment benefits. That means that in many parts of the United States, you're up to 99 weeks. So you've got almost 2 years of unemployment benefits. And remember, those are your economic rights. That's your money that you paid in to the unemployment fund. Don't let reactionary Republicans or fascist corporate state Democrats take that money away from you. There were about 1 million people who were on the verge of exhausting their benefits, and there are quite a few 100,000 more who already have. So this gives them, again, another 14 weeks of benefits. That particular measure cost $24 billion actually. Yeah, and now the Republicans who voted for the bailout, the Republicans who voted 700 to 800 billion for the Wall Street Moloch, are now whining and complaining that this encourages lazy people who don't want to work. The usual reactionary song, as we've heard it from these hypocrites and bankrupt ideologues of the Austrian and Chicago schools going back all these years. Now let's look at the Depression as it unfolds. Certainly the big news of the week is the bankruptcy, finally, of CIT. CIT is officially bankrupt as of this past Sunday afternoon. This is probably the fifth largest bankruptcy in United States history. It is certainly in the top 10 or the top dozen at the very least. CIT, you'll remember, is a factoring operation. They provide commercial credit, retail credit. If you want to move goods from a factory to a store, that involves credit. You've got to have a bill of lading, a bill of exchange is generated. It means that the factory can put the goods into the truck, take the bill of lading to a factor, in this case CIT, and get cash for it so they don't have to wait 3, 4, 5 months before the goods are sold. They get it discounted, right? You don't get 100 cents on the dollar, you get 97 or 98 or whatever the prevailing interest rate is and the amount of time. And then the payment goes from the store back to CIT. So they're in the middle of those transactions. They provide commercial credit. And we know that the rule of the Obama administration is the absolute dictatorship of finance capital. Only Wall Street, only the zombie banks count. Industrial capital is destroyed. See GM and Chrysler. And, as we see here, commercial capital is destroyed. CIT had received $2.5 billion of federal bailout. That was not enough to save them. This is a company that should have been seized, nationalized, and operated in the public interest because unlike Goldman Sachs, unlike Morgan Stanley, who provide absolutely no public service and have absolutely no useful public role, CIT does. You got to move goods. You got to have credit. You've got to have those bills of exchange. You've got to be able to discount these bills of lading and related kinds of short-term commercial credit. So you need that. The proposal here, let's transform CIT into the Retail Credit Corporation. Retail Credit Corp. That sounds pretty good. Operate it as part of a permanent state sector. Since the zombie bankers struck out, they can't do it. They loaded it with derivatives. Get rid of them. Fire the bankrupteur, the bankruptors who put CIT into this terrible situation. Keep Carl Icahn away, that notorious corporate raider, asset stripper, and hedge fund hyena. Carl Icahn has been seen with his pirate intentions coming in on CIT. Keep Goldman Sachs out of the picture. They are part of the picture and have helped CIT to go into bankruptcy. And again, note, the obdurate refusal of Geithner and Summers and Volcker and the rest of these clowns to do anything because they say, well, CIT, it's not systemic. Well, guess again, this is going to be a blue holiday. This is going to be a wretched retail season if you can't get the goods from the factory to the store. And some goods are still produced here in the U.S. and probably even foreign funding, even something as basic as Dunkin' Donuts. Once again, the idea that you can get a coffee and a donut in this depression, now that's a question mark because that was CIT. So seize it, nationalize it, and operate it as a part of a permanent state sector since the bankers are just too monetarist and too dumb to do it. Back in a minute.